Okay, welcome everybody. I am really excited about today's guest because we're talking about not just one important thing, but two really important things. Anytime you're building an online course, whether it's your first online course or whether this is the 10th time that you have launched something, and those two things are beta testers and price points. And both of them are super important whenever you're launching any product or honestly service in any space because you want to have people's feedback. And I think a lot of people also make the mistake of pricing things incorrectly or sort of taking a shot in the dark. And then that comes back to haunt them later on in the launch process. So my guest expert tonight is Caitlin Johnson, and she's going to tell you all about these two key aspects. So Caitlin, welcome. And why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
All right. Yeah. As she was saying, I'm Caitlin Johnson. I'm the founder of Collectively Caitlin. I'm primarily a one-on-one business coach for creative entrepreneurs, but I make passive income through my courses and ebooks that I have on the side, which are kind of marketed almost to like a different client base, like more the DIYers is kind of where that is. I'm currently living in New Mexico with my husband and my little puppy Nala. But we'll be moving to Las Vegas in a couple months. So chances are by the time most of you are watching this, I will be in Las Vegas. But yeah, so today I chose that we were going to talk about beta testers and choosing your price points, mostly because I feel like these are almost overlooked topics when creating a course, which makes sense because we're all super focused on the content and the value that we're creating. And we get so like into the content and, work, get this made, and then we have it and we don't know what to do next. So that's really what we're going to be talking about today. So let's dive in here. So first off, we're going to talk about the beta tester part, and we'll move to price points next. But the first thing is, why even use beta testers? And I get asked that all the time from a lot of my clients that are creating courses. And there are so many like super basic reasons that we don't even think about that I'm going to talk about 3 of them today. The first one being that they can catch our mistakes. The second one, that they can give us a student perspective, and that they can help us gauge the price for later on when we get to that part. So as far as the they can catch our mistakes part, they're almost like a free editor at times, which is great because we get so involved and so close to what we're working on that sometimes we miss like the simplest things. So, and it's just human nature. It's totally normal. But it's great to have another set of eyes so that they can see and say, oh, well, this sentence here didn't make sense. Or, the way you worded this I didn't quite know what you were talking about. Having somebody to catch those things before you launch it. And then all of a sudden you have like 100 emails from paying clients who are like, I don't understand what you're saying, is completely invaluable to the whole like course creation process. And number 2 was that they can give a student perspective, which not just with those things that are more like editor notes, but also things like it would make more sense if the flow of your course had this first instead of this first. Things that we might not think about from the teacher perspective. And also things like the way it's viewed. I don't know about you, but there have been so many times I'm not a super techie person. I'm just not. So I'll like create something on the back end, whether it's a course or a page on my website or whatever it is, and it looks amazing on the back end. Everything's perfect. And as soon as I hit publish and go look, it looks nothing like what I originally created. And that's just part of the way I guess the internet works. I don't know. Again, not a techie person, but it's good when you have your beta testers who are looking at your course. Their chances are, if you have a handful of beta testers, that they're looking on it on different devices. So some might be on a Mac or a PC or an Android phone or an iPhone, whatever. And they can say, the picture that you have is only showing half of it on my screen when I use my iPhone. So you should probably fix that. Like those kinds of things that a student is going to see, as well as stuff like you might get feedback that's like, oh, I absolutely adored your course, but I wish you also talked about X, Y, and Z. Things that your students are also probably going to be thinking when they take your course. Whew, excuse me. So, and they can also help you gauge the value. That was point number 3 there, gauging the value of your course. later on when you're having to determine your price point, it's good to know what your students are going to expect to pay for this. So that's a great way to use your beta testers. So now that we've kind of discussed some of the whys for beta testing, I want to talk about how to use beta testers, because there is, believe it or not, a right and wrong way to use beta testers. So I'm going to tell you from my mistakes with my very first course. I just went on Facebook to one of my favorite Facebook groups and said, I need beta testers for this course. You can get this course for free. And everybody loves free stuff. I totally get it. And so I had about 25 beta testers volunteer to take this course for free, which sounds great, except I didn't pay attention to like if these people were people that would normally take my course. Like this course my first course that I created was specifically for photographers. Like that's who it was marketed for and created for. And less than half of the people that beta tested for me were even photographers. So obviously that doesn't make any sense to do it like that. Like you need to be looking for the people that are actually going to be taking your course and not just throwing it out there to anybody. So that is the wrong way to do that. Especially since most of them won't even finish the course. Only 4 of those 25 people finished that course. That was it. So that was very little feedback for that, and a ton of time and work that goes into like following up with all your beta testers and all of that. So I want to talk about how to not have that experience and how to have a great experience with beta testers. So there are really 4 main things that you want to focus on. And that's going to be knowing who your course is for, knowing what information you're going to need from your beta testers, choosing the right amount of beta testers, and then afterwards implementing the things that they have suggested. So knowing who your course is for. Before you contact anyone or put it in a Facebook group or any of that to get beta testers, you need to know exactly who that course is designed for. As specifically as possible, whether it's designed for bloggers or wedding planners or online business owners. And even more specifically, is this really marketed towards women or towards men or towards people in their first couple of years of business or established business owners? Like whoever it's for, narrow that down as much as possible, which obviously you've probably already done, but you probably didn't think through doing that when looking for your beta testers. So, and if you already have a couple individuals in mind that as you're creating this course, you were like, oh, my friend Stephanie or this girl I know, whatever, it would be perfect for this. Shoot them a message, shoot them an email, let them know like, hey, I've created this course. I'm looking for beta testers. Is this something you'd be interested in helping me out with? And then even if you do open it up on a Facebook group, like still be super specific. Like I need you to be a wedding planner in your first 3 years of business and be able to finish this by whatever date that you have in mind. Whew, excuse me. Can I get a little water? And you need to know ahead of time what information you need from your beta testers. So before you start handing out the link to the course to your beta testers, go ahead and create a survey of some sort. It might just be in an email. It might be in a survey website, whatever is convenient for you. And go ahead and have all those questions there. Like, what did they notice any errors? Did they think the content flowed well? What did they learn from this course? What would they pay for this course is a really big one because that can help you later on. And maybe even ask them for a review that you can use when you're marketing the course later on. Like all of that stuff you want to have ready, all those questions ready. So they're looking at those before they start the course and they know they need to keep an eye out for errors. So they know they need to be keeping an eye out on the flow of it. And you may have even more specific questions that are really course specific for what you've created. So make sure those are there ahead of time and they know that they're looking for those things when they go to take the course. I would also like to add that less is more with beta testers. So I told you about my total fail of beta testing that they didn't even finish it beforehand. And that was like 25 plus people. I really recommend that, especially once you've been so picky about who it is that you want to beta test your course, no more than 7, which I know sounds really small. But in fact, my last course that I launched and the most successful course that I've launched had 3 beta testers, and that was it. And they were great. They were handpicked, and they gave me more valuable feedback than all 25 of the previous ones. So really, yeah, you don't need a ton of beta testers to get the to get the answers that you need for your content. And it also, like, you're going to be chatting with them more because you're not trying to chat with 25 people to get their feedback. And that's 25 people that you probably could have sold your course to, but now you just gave it to them for free for feedback that they may not even ever get around to giving you. So less is definitely more when it comes to that. Also, implementing, this is the one that, like, I feel like hurts people's feelings. Implementing the information that your beta testers are giving you. Like, you chose these beta testers to give you feedback, but a lot of times people will get that feedback and then they're like, no, that can't be wrong with my course because I worked so hard. Like, whatever it is that they're saying isn't right because I worked so hard on this course. It becomes like our little baby project, which I get. We work so hard on our courses to launch them so that they're, valuable for everyone who buys them. But that's the point of a beta tester, is so that they can point those things out and say, you should add this. Now, granted, every little bit of feedback might not be feedback that you need to incorporate in your course or implement in your course, but a lot of it probably will be, because that was the point of picking them. Sorry. I hum a lot. Anyone who's had a session with me knows that I hum while I'm thinking and going through things. So yeah, as far as that goes, before you start, know who your course is for, know what questions that you need to ask them, and give them to the beta testers that you choose. You don't need a ton of beta testers, and then actually implement whatever their feedback is that would be valuable. So that is the summarization, I guess, is that a word? Of how to have a successful beta testing experience. I don't want you to have 25 beta testers that aren't even right for your course like I did, okay? But now we're going to get into pricing, which is kind of going to take up more of a bulk of our time here, because it's such a stressful and overwhelming part of course creation. Because again, like, we get into this zone of creation and we're like, I know my client's going to love this. It's going to be perfect. And then we have to price it. And it's almost more scary than actually launching or creating, because there's this, like, it's too high. People might expect more value than the course actually has. And then we're issuing refunds left and right. Or people just find this cheaper, similar course. Or if it's too low, people might not think that there's value in it and not buy it because of that. It's this whole, like, Goldilocks and the Three Bears thing, like, too hot, too cold, but just right. Like, we want to find the just right price point for a course. And so I actually have quite a few points for this. I have 5 points for this part. The first one's going to be that we have to consider how much time and money that we put into this course beforehand. We also need to consider, number 2 is consider how much income we need to make monthly. Number 3 is determining the kind of course that we are. And I'll get into that more in a second. Number 4 is we have to evaluate what the beta testers have said. And we need to consider a price that we're comfortable with. So I'm going to elaborate on each of these a little bit. How much time and money did it cost you to put this course together? Obviously, if you spent 100 hours creating this course, and you hired a designer or maybe a video editor to help you create this course the way that you wanted it, you need to determine what those costs are that you need to make back. And you also need to determine how long you want it to take you to make that money back. So if you're fine with not making that money back for like another year, then you can probably price it lower. But if you know that you need to make that money back in 2 months because you have bills to pay, then that needs to be factored into your cost. Which of those are going to vary by person. You may have thrown the class together in 10 hours all on your own. That's less cost that you need to be making back. Number 2, how much do you need monthly? Most of you taking this course are probably going to be using a platform like Teachable or Digital Chalk, or one of those kinds of monthly systems. Although there are those of you that are like self-hosting it, and like, high fives to you, because again, I'm not a techie person, and that like all sounds great in theory. I could never do that ever. But for those that aren't, or even if you are, you still have like hosting fees every month. And if you're on Teachable or Digital Chalk, those have monthly fees. Like, you need to know that you're going to be able to make those, like, make your fees so that you can keep selling your course. Now, this is the more tricky one that I feel like most people don't think about. What kind of course are you? The way that I see it, there are really only 3 kinds of courses. And there are probably some that are in between, and I don't want to get a bunch of emails saying, no, Caitlin, I'm the 4th kind of course. Like, this is just in general, there are 3 kinds of courses when we really boil it down. There are exceptions, but there are really generally 3 kinds of courses. And those are going to be knowledge courses, courses that indirectly affect the student's income, and those that directly affect the student's income. And what I mean by that is the courses that are purely for knowledge would be courses like how to write a great blog post. It's good to know how to write a great blog post, and I'd probably buy a course on how to write a great blog post. But that doesn't directly affect the money that I'm going to make as a student that just took your course, right? Then there are courses that kind of indirectly affect the student's potential income, such as a course called How to Improve SEO for Your Blog. That's going to help get more people to the blog, which that can then in turn make the blogger more money. So that's not a direct connection to the income that they can make, but it is pretty closely in line. And then there are courses that directly affect the student's potential income. And that would be something like how to use affiliate links to make money on your blog. That's going to directly change the amount of money that I can make on my blog if I was going to be taking that course. So for the last one, that's going to directly change how much money I'm making after I take it and implement what I've learned, I would pay more for that course because I'm going to get more out of that course in the long run than I would the first course, which was just how to write a great blog post. It's helpful, but doesn't directly affect the income that I can make. So the point number 4 was, what did your beta testers say? So you should already have a number written down for how much money that you spent to create the course and time that you spent. How much do you want to get paid for each of those hours, etc. How much you need to be making monthly, but then take the number that your beta testers have said, which they can be super, super broad. I had one group of beta testers for one of my courses that said, like, one person said I should charge $50 for the course, and then another person said I should charge like $350 for the course. So that's like a huge gap between those two. And you're going to have some of that too. Some people find more value in some of these things than others. And average all those together and take that number. And don't pick that number necessarily, but use that as kind of a gauge when you're choosing how much you're going to charge for this course. And my last point is, what are you comfortable with price-wise? And I kind of put this on here hesitantly because I know a lot of my clients and other people I've worked with or seen create courses have a tendency to underprice themselves just for fear of having a big number. And I think everyone does. Like, no matter how long you've been in business, there's still that little bit of like, oh, but I really shouldn't charge that much. You know, it's just like somewhere in the back of our heads, there's something saying, no, we don't need to charge that much money. And I don't know why that is. It's just, I see it all the time though. So clearly it's there. You need to find a number that you're comfortable with telling people when they're like, oh, I have this problem. You can say, oh, I have this great course for you. Here's the link. And you can purchase it for like X amount of dollars. And you feel good about saying that, because when you price too far out of your comfort zone, people have the tendency to be like, oof, to just want to give discounts left and right. And at that point, you haven't even, like, if you're not even going to stick to your price point, what's the point of having it where it is instead of whatever you're discounting? So I would really consider, like, what number are you going to feel comfortable about telling people, and choose, like, it still has to, like, still pay your bills and all that. Make sure you're doing the math for it, but make sure it's a number you're comfortable with too. I feel like I flew through all of that. I'm a super fast talker. I've recently learned. All of my friends that are from the South have told me that I'm the fastest talker in the South, so I apologize for those of you that have to rewatch this to catch up with everything. But yeah, so to wrap that up, what you want to do for pricing is we're going to be considering how much time and money you put into it, consider how much income that you need each month, determine the kind of course you are, And remember, those are knowledge courses and directly affecting income, and then directly affecting income courses. Evaluate what your beta testers have said, and then consider what you're comfortable with. Within reason, you can stretch your comfort zone a little bit. Yeah, like I think you are set up if you're implementing these beta tester rules, implementing these price point rules. I think you're set up to go take your content that's already like in your head waiting to share with everybody. Like take that, go make your course, line up some great beta testers, find your not too hot but not too cold, like Goldilocks, just right price point. And I think you're on your way to a successful launch. Like that's what's worked for me. That's what's worked for me with my clients. So I think you can do this.
Thank you so much for all of that. There were so many good gems in there that kind of make this worth going back and like listening to it over again, because you really condensed so much information and like best practices about both of these things. So I have one question for you on sort of each of these parts of the presentation. So I know, for example, like when I've hired beta testers, or not even hired, but given beta testers access to my course, I had the same problem that you did when you first did it. Like I had like 20 people take it. I think only 2 even completed the course and gave me feedback, and it was great, but it was like that wasn't what I was expecting. And like you said, I felt like, wow, I gave this course for free to my target market, and they didn't really assign any value to it. So what tips do you have? Like, is there a way of vetting people, or are there incentives that you can give people to encourage, one, that you're getting the right person as a beta tester, but 2, also that they'll actually finish it, and give you that feedback that you need?
Yeah, I think part of it is like once you've determined who that ideal client is for that course, is like finding that person and not compromising. I know last time, the one that I only had 3 beta testers for, I think I had 40 messages of people that wanted to take that course for free. And first of all, there's no way, even if I wanted that many beta testers, that I would give away my course for free to 40 people. Like, I got to pay bills, people. Come on. But I think part of it is like really not compromising on that. Like, okay, you want to beta test for me? Thank you. I appreciate that. But have you been in business for X amount of time? Are you looking? I know my most recent one was like how to start a virtual assistant business. Like, are you planning on starting a virtual assistant business? Where are you in this process? Because if you've already learned half of the stuff that's in my course, this course isn't for you. If this is like really narrowing it down, and like if even one part of it's off, skip them, because you don't need that. You want someone who's going to be engaged, somebody who would theoretically, if they saw your course, buy it, Yeah,
I think that's great advice, because it's very easy to get excited about all these people who are interested in your materials. But even if there is only one missing element, it's really like, this should be something that you offer selectively to a core group of people that are exactly the kind of ideal people you'd want going through this class. So the lesson learned from that is to make sure that you're only allowing those specific people in, and that it's okay to have less people, but have them really be, giving you valuable feedback you need. Because like you said, if you've got a class that's geared toward photographers and more than half of the people taking it and potentially giving feedback, they might not give the same feedback that a photographer
not so much.
really necessarily need their feedback. So I get that. So my other question is about pricing. Now, this is something I've struggled with too. If you launch something and then you think, okay, it didn't do as well as I thought, is it disingenuous to, okay, so like if you launch a product and you tell people, oh, this is a limited time offer, this is the last time this course will be offered at this price, but it's not really succeeding, and you think, price point might at least be part of it, right?
Yeah.
What do you do in that situation so that it's still genuine to the people who've already enrolled, but so that you're not losing out on people who might be comfortable with it, with some tweaks, and one of them being a price change?
I think part of that goes back to like having beta testers give you what they would pay for it, so that you can consider that, because theoretically they would be students like that would buy your course as well, and so taking their prices into consideration. But as far as like tweaking it later on without making people feel bad that have already paid for it, And this is going to sound like super, super awful, but this is what I've done before. I just kind of like hide the course, don't talk about it, don't mention it on social media or anything for a while, long enough that I know people forget, and then I re-release it at the new price. Like, oh, everyone's kind of forgotten that that existed except for the like few people that bought it last time. So we'll give it another try.
I think that's like a decent way of handling the situation, because you don't want to rub it in the face of the people who did sign up and take your course. But at the same time, as a course creator with anything you put together, you have to be reflective of what is and isn't working. And I know in the course that I'm thinking of, I really created it for beginners, and I priced it above what a beginner could afford. And
Yeah.
a couple people did still sign up for it. But then afterwards, I was like, man, how many people are going through this sequence and not signing up because of that? Because it's just not a reality. And so I know other
Yeah.
people have been in that situation too, where they're like, I want to change the price, but rather than going up, I want to go down. And, how do I not disappoint people in that situation? Well, I just want to thank you for coming and sharing this information, because I mean, they're both two distinct subjects, but
Yeah.
such a good job of illustrating how beta testers also play into this thing about price, and the experience that your testers are having can help inform not only what they would pay for it, but just sort of like the general experience that they had as well. So both of these are two important components, distinct but a little bit related in the
Yeah.
course creation process. So I just want to thank you so much for your time, and this has been such wonderful information.
Yeah. Thank you.